Hi, I'm Elizabeth Cantey, and this is another episode of Living Enlightened Every Day. Today, we are asking the question, why don't affirmations work? Let's find out. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Cantey, and I love helping people love their life and live their passion by integrating spirit, mind, and body. That's what I love. That's what I love for me. That's what I spend my life, my time, my energy doing. Just that wonderful integration of spirit, mind, and body, knowing that there is an incredible flow to life, that I am in it, as it, of it, and it is in me. There is no better feeling than sensing and feeling and knowing wholeness, regardless of how life is showing up, of what is going on all around me. I am resting in this wholeness or oneness of life. I invite you to explore this podcast by asking the question, who are you being as you are listening? I asked that question last week. That was the name of the talk last week. Who are you being? So I explain it. If you missed it, check that out. I'll have it in the show notes. But essentially, it is, how are you listening to this? Are you being open? Are you excited? Are you going to learn something? Do you know you're going to hear something that will serve you? And I invite you to listen from that perspective, to be that space of generous listening. And we are exploring the question, why don't affirmations work? Because let's face it, like any uh, practice, we can call it a spiritual practice, a psychological practice, a positive thinking practice, whatever you want to call it. If it worked all the time, everybody would do it. They'd be teaching it in kindergarten. But it doesn't always work for everyone, including myself. So I do explore this in my book, Living Enlightened, The Joy of Integrating Spirit, Mind, and Body. And I was so excited to really see this covered in the book about Steve Hardison, named The Book of Being, also known as the Ultimate Coach book. He concludes, as I do, that if affirmations just worked, we could take whatever thought that we might be thinking and just reframe it immediately. And it would just work. We could put up sticky notes and, you know, tattoo it on our forehead, and whatever the case may be, and we would be able to change pretty rapidly, theoretically. In my book, I have a chapter entitled Become the Archaeologist, Discover Hidden Treasures and Some Trash, maybe. Because we may have gotten to a point in our life where we want to experience some change, and we may have recognized some of the things that are holding us back. We may realize, I get into temper very easily. I become easily disturbed. I become easily upset in traffic. Whatever these things that we've noticed as patterns or habits, we have addressed, we think, and we have used affirmations to help us overcome them. And yet, we don't feel like we're making any progress whatsoever. In my book, I invite you to explore the very subconscious hidden beliefs that we have from early childhood. And it sounds like, we might need a therapist or a trip to the Rhythmia Center for some ayahuasca to really uncover these beliefs. But it's just not true. You can do whatever you want, but we don't have to go that far. We can simply sit in a quiet moment and look at any kind of habit, let's just say driving to work. And we can usually find a simple thought pattern that is underneath that habit that is kind of driving the reason why we're always easily disturbed in the car when we're driving. It might go back to our childhood. It might be maybe our first job when if we were late, even by a minute, we were yelled at or humiliated or fired. It might be things like that where we feel like we are under pressure when we're driving, where we have to get where we're going. In other words, we're not driving and being present in the moment of driving as the activity that we are participating in a moment. We are actually running a pattern that may have been set up since childhood. It might have been that our parents, when we were a family, and our mother and father were in the front seat and we kids were in the back seat, that's when our parents chose to fight. I don't know. That's when or maybe we noticed that our one of our parents or both were very critical of other drivers or of each other's driving. It's really these hidden beliefs where we find ourselves really stagnant, not being able to change because we can't remember where they came from or how they began. But what we do know is that we are easily disturbed in the car, right? So we can really do some exercises. And I have a few in my book for each chapter and for this chapter, but we can do an exercise where we just imagine ourselves sitting in the car. We can think of the last time we were easily disturbed in the car. And, it was a driver cutting us off, or we were getting late to work and the train came by and the arms came down. Why don't they put an overpass or an underpass here? Things like that. We're now shaken out of our state of being, being intentional about getting to work on time. And now we're just out of it. We're angry, we're upset, we're frustrated. Just having an affirmation or a sticky note in the car on the dashboard that says, I love driving to work, or I love my drive to work, whatever it is, that's not going to work when there is some deep hidden beliefs. I have a few examples in my book. The biggest one I can think of is when I had melanoma on my arm. I'm living in Florida. I'm from Florida. I've lived in California. A lot of fun in the sun and things like that. I was a swimmer and a lifeguard as a child and teenager. I never thought of cancer. It's not something I think most kids think of. And it wasn't really popular, the idea of sun cancer or skin cancer, until I was around 11 or 12. And my mom, who was very aware with the news media, back in the Walter Cronkite days. Is that his name? I hope I'm saying that right. Just a little before my time. When she found that out, she would say, put your sunscreen on or you're going to get skin cancer. Put your sunscreen on. You got to put sunscreen on or you're going to get skin cancer. Look, you burned your skin. You're going to get skin cancer. Now, as a normal teenager, I didn't pay too much attention to what she was saying. I did try to put my sunscreen on. I was a lifeguard. That was back in the days of the colored zinc oxide and everything else we would try to put on. There wasn't a whole lot of product at the time, but I did my best. And as the years went by, the products improved, and I ended up putting on sunscreen all the time. I left out the fact that my mom used to say, or you'll get skin cancer. I left that out, but I kept putting on the sunscreen. So when I got the melanoma, it was kind of interesting. I was like, I've never had this thought or this idea, and no one around me had skin cancer, miraculously. But I just did a meditation. I just looked at that situation, looked at putting on sunscreen, looked at the times that I didn't, and I could hear that voice. And my mom, I could just picture some instances when she was very adamant about wearing the sunscreen so we wouldn't get skin cancer. So that was a hidden belief that I left out of the action of putting on the sunscreen, but it was always there underneath the activity. That's why I was doing that activity. And in the book, I use a few more examples, but the underlying idea is that we can change that belief. Now I can change that belief to putting on sunscreen to keep my skin healthy. Like there's an idea of health behind wearing a sunscreen now. There's an idea of health and well-being. And I think it's so much more powerful than just creating an affirmation, like going to work, really uncovering the idea that there was a time where I got fired for being late to work, and now going to work is always seen as stressful. I could lose my job. You only have 1 hour. I only had 1 hour for lunch. 1 hour. If you're late by 1 minute, you're going to get humiliated or worse. And your pay is docked, you're pointed out that you can't be on time, all these things. And so driving at your lunch break or driving to and from work just becomes an activity. We end up focusing on what's in the way so that I don't get fired. What could happen so that I don't get fired? What could happen so that I'm not late even by a minute? We're already setting up the anxiety or the nervousness. And of course, if it was our parents fighting in the car, whatever it was, if it was someone being critical, as we learned how to drive. So it really isn't difficult to be the archaeologist. It isn't that difficult, but it does take just some mindfulness, some attention. And if we don't get it, with the first sitting of a meditation, we can get it in the second one or the third. We'll get it very quickly because whatever we ask of ourselves, our highest self, source within, with that sweet intention of just uncovering the truth of our being and letting go, shedding what's in the way of our being our highest self in our highest good, we will get the answer. I find that the answer flows when we're just gentle with ourselves, when we're easy with ourselves in being the archaeologist. And reading The Ultimate Coach book, also known as The Book of Being by Amy Hardison and Alan D. Thompson, written about Steve Hardison, he talks about really working with his clients, not giving them affirmations, not just, you can't just reframe something that simply. He has them walk around for anywhere between 2 and 4 weeks, possibly longer, to really pay attention to the negative self talk, to the limiting beliefs. And if you haven't done that, it's really empowering to carry a little notebook, have it in your pocket or your purse. Use your phone, but keep your phone out, whatever it is. And as the thoughts come up, the thought could be like, I'm going to be late to work again. Just writing it down, jotting down. We might even have some categories of thoughts and then just put a little check mark next to it. It's another thought about being late for work. It's another thought about driving. It's another thought about not getting this contract or this deal. Not having a good conversation with my child, dreading something, whatever is coming up. That's just, one area. And it's finding those, some are hidden and some are right there in front of our face. And we just have the noise of repetition, we've just blocked it out. How many times we say something about someone else or about ourselves that is limiting or negative. In my book, it's very interesting. the chapters leading up to that are all about really uncovering beliefs that are not our true identity. And I just love that that is one of the things that Steve does with his clients is really uncovering who they are by allowing them to look and see and shed who they are not. We are not the experiences that happened to us. We have ideas about those experiences. We have created thought patterns around those experiences. We have created habits around those thought patterns. We have a lot of conditioning around our thoughts about those experiences. But guess what? They're not happening now. They're from the past. Like the time I got fired from work. Is my new boss going to fire me if I'm late? No, but I still have a bad drive every time I go to work. That could be time to let that go, to uncover the reasoning behind my anxiety or frustration while I'm driving. This is making sense, right? And sometimes most of us just take it for granted that, well, it's a hard drive. It's 40 minutes and two freeways getting to my workplace. So it's always going to be frustrating or difficult. There's always going to be an accident. There's always going to be this. There's always going to be that. Really? That's not life. That's not how life is. That's how we think. Life is just being life. Life is just being slow traffic, moving traffic, pile up traffic, accident on the shoulder, rain, slate, is that something? Sleet, hail, storm, dry, heat, whatever it is, the car catches on fire, the tire explodes, whatever it is. Life is just being life. Our thoughts about life, the drive, are making us miserable, not the drive. The drive is just an activity that we are partaking in order to participate in life. And when we live our life, I'm going to stick with this car example as an easy one. When we live our life by knowing that we're at home and we're having the morning that we've created through choosing our being, how we are being this morning. Am I going to be rushed? Am I going to be in anxiety? Am I going to be in dread? Am I going to be in excitement? Am I going to be in anticipation? Am I going to be looking forward to? So that's kind of setting the scene, right? And then as we get in the car, do I notice a switch? Do I notice the dread or the anxiety? Do I notice something happening about getting in my car? Maybe the car's old. Maybe that's the anxiety. Whatever it is, I can feel or sense that switch happening. And I can remind myself that I've uncovered this limiting idea, this thought pattern that has been running the way I drive to work. And I can choose now to be aware of that shift when it happens. Okay, so as I'm getting in my car, I feel it. The heart racing, the gut clenching, the hands, white knuckling on the steering wheel, and I'm just in the garage, right? I'm not even pulled out yet. So that's being very mindful, being very aware, and as we are aware, we can then choose. So we've chosen to understand this hidden belief or this belief of where this pattern has come from. Now we can see ourselves living it. We can see our bodies just reacting to it. And we can allow ourselves now the reframing of that, because now we understand what it is and where it came from, and we can just allow ourselves, no, we can just say to ourselves, that happened when you were 20 or 24 or 29, whenever it was. Now There's no one to fire you. You're fine. This is going to be a great drive. We can relax. When I say we, I'm talking usually to my inner child or just the royal we, us, the committee in here. It's like we can just relax. We can just enjoy the drive. I can put on soft music if I want. I personally don't have music on. I enjoy the scenery. I enjoy the drive. I enjoy looking at the cars and the traffic lights. Don't ask me why. There's something about the whole mess of it that I just enjoy being in the car, in life as it is unfolding. And instead of waiting to get to the next moment, which is for most of us when I get to work, when I get there, and spending that 40 minutes in the car thinking about what am I going to do? What am I going to say? How am I going to be? What's going to happen? I didn't get lunch. I didn't get breakfast. I'm not going to get there early enough to make this meeting. If we let all that go, if we just let it all go and be with driving, with life as it is unfolding in the drive, traffic may slow down, traffic may get backed up, the train may come if we decided to take that shortcut where we try to miss the train, but the train's late and now it's right where we are. So if we can just be with life as it is unfolding, then we notice the anxiety, that pattern is released. It's released just by our attention to it and now our choosing to be in the present moment, to be with life as it is unfolding. Eckhart Tolle says, stop waiting. Don't wait, just be present. Be present with what is driving, the sunshine, the rain, the windshield wipers, the noises, the sounds. There's something magnificent about life when we're just living it. But as we pile our ideas, especially our anxieties, our fears, our dreads onto life as it's unfolding, we feel bad. We suffer. We have that restriction in our gut, that pain in our chest. Just like, oh, like, the weight of the world on our shoulders. It's like when we explore what is really taking place with our thoughts, and I don't mean watching every single thought every day for the rest of our lives. It's not how it happens. As soon as we become aware of just the places where we are experiencing this sort of repetitive anxiety, let's call it. It could be a very low level. Most people won't even call it anxiety. They just won't like going to work, driving to work. Oh, I hate driving to work. Well, that's not normal. That's why I help people love their life and live their passion, because we can love our life every moment, not just in good moments. What good would that be if we could only enjoy the moments that we claim are good? It's claiming every moment as good as what is happening, accepting every moment as it unfolds and being relaxed in it, being ourselves in it, being authentic in it. We could be listening to music, listening to a podcast. We could be thinking about, someone special in our lives. But again, not waiting to get to the next moment, waiting to get to work, waiting for the traffic to release. It's like just being present as life is unfolding and allowing the beautiful sights that are available to us, even if it's the skyline or the bridge or whatever it is. Pay attention to your driving. Just be with driving and all that that entails. I hope I've covered and touched on why just affirmations sometimes don't work. When there's something very easy, very lighthearted that we're looking to change, sure, a sticky note, a reminder, an affirmation, a mantra, something that we can say to ourselves over and over again, that until we're living it, until we're living in the experience of the affirmation or the mantra, that does work sometimes. And when it works, we experience that and we're very grateful. And if you're like me, you've experienced, and like many of my clients, like you've experienced times it's like that doesn't work. That definitely doesn't work. Well, in my book, I explain, and in Steve Hardison's book, and with his clients, he explains as well that we uncover hidden beliefs. When we do uncover hidden beliefs, we realize that they're not who we are essentially. It's not our essential nature. And so, as we shed hidden beliefs, limiting beliefs, beliefs that something that happened to us could or is still happening, which it isn't, our essential nature is like this beautiful light that then burns off the residue of anything else. We don't have to continue doing it. We don't have to do it over and over again. It's not work. It's exciting to uncover the truth of our being. And then that truth is just shining like the brightest light. It it shines into and on and through anything that seems like a shadow, and shadows, as we know, are not entities in and of themselves. As the light shines, there is no shadow. There is nothing there, no thing. And it's the most amazing feeling. It's our authentic self shining through every experience, including brushing the teeth, putting on the sunscreen, driving to work, taking meetings, taking the kids to soccer, um, whatever it is, but especially those things that have caused us that low level anxiety that we've taken for granted. Everybody hates going to work. Nobody likes the drive going to work. Well, that doesn't make it right. that every We do not have to experience that low level anxiety. The Buddha called it suffering. He said life is suffering, meaning because if we are unconsciously going through life, that's what we think. This is bad, this is terrible, that's slow, this is slowing me down, this is going to get me fired. I mean, that's suffering, right? That's a whole lot of suffering going on. But he also, of course, gave us the wonderful realization that there's a way out of suffering. And it is letting go of everything we are not, the thoughts about what is, letting go of the thoughts about what is, and accepting, being with, being in, being as what is. That's a whole nother ball game. That's being in the connection of life, feeling oneness with everything that is happening, whether we call that everything traffic, whether we call it a storm, whether we call it a blown out tire, we're just right there. We're just right there with it. So I hope that helps you realize why sometimes just affirmations or just reframing the negative doesn't work. Sometimes there's just a little bit of homework to do. I have some homework in my book, and I know Steve Hardison gives his clients homework to do. If we want to keep doing the same things over and over again, we will get the same result over and over again. When we want to experience a transformation, sometimes all it takes is sitting still and being with those areas first, those low level areas of anxiety, frustration, dread. Look a little deeper at what is going on. Because when we do this, when we work on this, I'm going to call it a easier level, like traffic, like weather, like neighbors, things that we're not super attached to. When we start there, like I said, the light of source that is who we are, our true nature, starts shining through, and then we can change and transform every aspect of our life. And we are walking through life in love, in joy, in peace, in abundant supply, in compassion, in revelation and insight. Nothing better than that. So why spend your time in any kind of anxiety, in any kind of lack or limitation? I invite you to become the archaeologist, to dig deep sometimes, and you'll find some hidden trash. Throw that out, because right there is the treasure. If you like this, I invite you to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button, and you'll know when the next video comes out. And go ahead and share it with a friend. They might be wondering why their affirmations are not working either. I hope this week you laugh, love, live enlightened, become the architect in your life. Uncover the hidden treasure that you are.